Unit 612. Phone number 720-656-9605.
Claude Court, is that? I think we determined it was North Glen, right?
Yes.
You know your zip code?
80249.
Okay. Can you speak up just a little bit so the recorder? I know you're tired and you're stressed, and we won't be here any longer than we have to be. You've already had a conversation with people before. You came here on your own free will to talk to us. We picked you up at your request and brought you here. You can get up and leave at any time. You don't have to talk to us. If there's a question you don't want to answer, don't answer it. If you don't want to talk anymore, just tell me I want to leave. And I'm kind of in the way of the door, but you're not being interrogated as a criminal suspect. We're here to understand your relationship with Chris and what you know about Chris and his family, and events relating to Chris Watts. And do you know him as Chris or Christopher?
Either one.
Okay. So the phone number that you reached him on, can you tell me what that number was?
I think I deleted that out of my phone too. I just cut him out of my life. It's a 910 number. You guys have it.
No, we gave it to Mark yesterday.
Yeah, I probably have it, but just in case.
I don't have it
If I recited it to you, would you know it?
Just the first three numbers.
Okay. But you know it as a 910 number?
Yes, that's what I do know. I mean, that's what I've got.
North Carolina or something.
North Carolina. Okay. So let's just start with a timeline of your getting to know Chris, how you guys met, where you met, all those things. Let's just run. And I'm not going to ask you specific questions unless I think it's necessary. I'll let you just tell me your story. I think it's a little bit easier that way. So I just want to know how you met him, where you met him, how long you guys were dating, and those kind of things initially.
Okay. I think I met him sometime in June, probably early June. It might have been May. It was just talking at work. It was pretty casual. And he didn't have a wedding ring on his finger. And every time I talked to him, he didn't tell me that he was in a relationship. He didn't even mention his kids right away either. And then one day he told me that he had 2 kids. I was like, that's pretty cool. And started telling me about his kids.
That sounded like a sarcastic comment.
No, I thought it was kind of cute. I was like, oh, he's a dad. It was right around Father's Day too. So whenever that is in June.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'm not good with holidays.
He told me he had kids, and then it was Father's Day shortly after that. So that's what I do now. And I was like, I thought it was cute. And then he's telling me about him. He's pretty excited about him. And then he mentioned that he did have a significant other. And then
if you believe every victim deserves to be remembered and every truth deserves to be told, subscribe to The Crime Narrator. These stories live on because you're here to hear them.
For years, she stayed mostly in the background. While documentaries dissected every detail and commentators analyzed every frame of interrogation footage involving Chris Watts, one voice remained measured, guarded, and often misunderstood: his mother, Cindy Watts. Now that silence is over. In what many are calling her most direct remarks yet, Cindy has reportedly opened up about the woman whose name has long hovered over the case, Nichol Kessinger. For years, Nichol has been a subject of intense public debate. Official investigations concluded without charges against her, yet online speculation never truly faded. Forums, videos, and independent analyses have repeatedly revisited her timeline, her interviews, and her connection to Chris in the days leading up to the tragedy.
Toxic gases, and it's my job to control the inventory, any issues, anything like that. And we were having some pretty serious equipment issues, and we had numerous amounts of people coming in my office one day, and he happened to be one of them. And I'd seen him before, like they meet in the lunchroom, and that's where I go put my lunch in the fridge. So I'd seen him, but I didn't ever like talk to him. So that day we just started talking, and then every time I saw him in the hallway after that, and it was always hit or miss, like it wasn't an everyday thing, it was just when I saw him, we just started talking, and we just kind of had a lot in common and just hit it off, so we'd always have, pretty good conversations. And then, I don't know, one day he told me that he had kids and started talking about his kids, and then mentioned, yes, that I have a wife, but we're getting separated. I said, okay. And
When do you think that was?
when he said all that,
So specifically when he told you he was getting separated from his wife, was that within the first couple of weeks that you knew him, or was that later on? You said you met him around May or June.
yeah, it was still in June.
Okay.
It would have been before Father's Day.
So had you guys ever gone out on any kind of
No.
date at that time? You just
No,
were
no.
conversing at work?
Yeah, that's all it was. And then, I don't know, we started hanging out.
According to sources close to the family, Cindy's recent comments were emotional but firm. She did not make direct accusations. Instead, she questioned the broader narrative, suggesting that public focus may have overlooked certain dynamics and pressures surrounding her son at the time. Her tone, reportedly, was not defensive but reflective. She spoke about confusion, regret, and unanswered questions that still linger in her mind. She implied that the story told to the public may not fully capture the complexity of what was happening behind closed doors. The reaction was immediate. Supporters claim she is finally saying what others were afraid to voice. Critics argue that reopening speculation risks reigniting harmful rumors. But one thing is certain: when a mother speaks after years of restraint, people listen. And this may only be the beginning. If you want to hear exactly what she said and how it could shift public conversation, share and subscribe so you don't miss. When Cindy Watts began speaking more openly, few expected the ripple effect to be this intense. Her remarks about Nichol Kessinger weren't explosive in tone, they were measured. But it was what she implied that caught attention. She reportedly expressed frustration with how quickly the public formed conclusions about every person connected to the tragedy involving Chris Watts. According to those familiar with her comments, Cindy suggested that relationships are rarely as simple as headlines make them appear. She spoke about emotional influence, private conversations, and pressures that may never be fully understood by outsiders. While she stopped short of placing blame, she questioned whether the full context of events was ever truly explored in the public sphere. That nuance is what ignited debate. Some listeners interpreted her words as an attempt to redirect scrutiny.
I wake up every morning just crying, thinking this is not going to be what's going to happen every single day. It's just so hard to get through it. I just don't know how to get through it.
Tell me about
Others saw them as a grieving mother trying to process a reality that still feels incomprehensible. The internet, as always, split into two camps, those defending her right to speak and those urging caution against fueling speculation. Legal experts were quick to remind audiences that investigations concluded without criminal findings against Nichol.
I think he's an introvert. I would consider him to be like a pretty, I don't want to say he's a very reserved individual. I think he's probably more reserved around other people. I think he emphasized to me that one of the reasons that he really enjoyed talking to me is because he felt like he could get out of his shell. He said around most people he just didn't really feel the need to talk and converse, and it wasn't just in his home life, just in general. It wasn't something where he's an introvert. And he said with me, it made him feel like he could really just start talking about things that excited him, and I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that we had things in common. So with me, I think he was a little bit more outgoing, but even then, I would still consider him to be an introvert. I mean, not on the extreme end. If an introvert went to like 1 to 10, I'd put him at like a 4 or 5. So on the lighter side of introvert.
Pretty even-keeled.
Yes, like really relaxed, like all the time. He was never really like worked up about anything. Just
Mellow,
chill,
easygoing guy.
very much.
Okay. And he was that way with you. Did he ever have any kind of, did you guys ever have arguments? I mean,
No.
pretty short relationship, no arguments during that time.
No.
Did he ever lose his temper at any time?
Never.
You guys never had a yelling match?
No.
So you never saw him upset or mad?
No. And there was a couple times that we had some disagreements on things that as we like further progressed into this story, you know, but it was never like, I am very calm when I talk to people. It's like extremely rational when I handle situations that there's a disagreement in, and he always was the exact same way. Like always. Like I never stressed anything. I think one thing that actually kind of drew me to him was the fact that he was like very open with communicating with me if there were any like differences on how we saw.
But that hasn't stopped renewed online analysis. Clips are circulating again. Old interviews are being re-examined. Body language experts are weighing in once more. Cindy's message, intentional or not, has reopened conversation. Not in courtrooms, but in public discourse. And sometimes, conversation is powerful enough to reshape narratives. As reactions continue to pour in and discussions intensify, one question hangs in the air. Was this simply a mother reflecting, or the beginning of a deeper revelation? As reactions continue to swirl, one thing has become clear. Cindy Watts is not speaking from a place of headlines, but from a place of heartbreak.
We saw things or just like open-minded about things. It was actually, I personally thought it was kind of unique because usually most of the men that I've ever met are typically very closed off, and I didn't get that from him at all. But it was always like kind, very kind.
So no sense that this guy had a temper or
Not at
was aggressive, or he never lost his mind and yelled and said crazy stuff or anything like that. Okay.
No.
So can we just kind of go back to your relationship? You say you guys had a lot in common. What was that?
Oh, I mean, like we're both really into fitness. I think that's important. It's a lifestyle. Both of us ate pretty healthy, so I think that was important as well. He's like a total gearhead. He likes cars a lot, and I don't know nearly as much about them, but it's always been something that I've been pretty interested in, so we definitely talk about stuff like that. And I guess he was always willing to like learn new stuff, and vice versa. Like I like to travel a lot, and it's not something that he's done a lot, but he seemed like really interested in what I had to share with him, and vice versa. So even if it wasn't something that we originally had in common together, it was just like, hey, I respect what you have to say, and vice versa.
So you guys just yin and yang. You got along pretty well.
Very well.
And no time, he never gave you an indication that
None.
that he was having issues. So during your guys' dating time, did you guys spend most of the time at your place?
Always.
Okay, always at your place.
I told, or we'd go out, but I told Mark yesterday, he asked me if I went over there, and I told him about one time that I went over to that house. I've been to that house twice, but it was very, very brief, and it was not like an extended stay. I did not feel comfortable there, or like, I just didn't want to be there. It's not my life. Like, that is somebody else's life and somebody else's existence, and I respect that. That's their space. And so I used to tell him, well, come to my house because this is our space. This is my space. And so for me, out of respect, just for like whatever situation he had going on and the fact that it's not my home, I felt that it was better to be in my place. And I live alone. I don't have any roommates or anything, so it's pretty easy to do that.
So during June and July, were you aware that his family was not his? Did you meet his children?
Nope.
During
Didn't want
June and
to.
July.
And he didn't ask me to.
Okay.
I mean, not that I didn't want to ever. It was just not now. It's like you're not finalized.
In further remarks, she reportedly emphasized that her intention was not to accuse Nichol Kessinger of wrongdoing. Instead, she described her comments as an attempt to explain how complicated and emotionally charged the situation had been in the time leading up to the tragedy involving Chris Watts. Cindy spoke about confusion, about how quickly everything unfolded and how little control she felt as events spiraled.
Think of anything except he was quiet.
It sounds like in your own mind, you're unsure as to what happened.
Yes.
Have you reconciled the idea that he could have done all of this?
Yes. And that scares me to death. It scares me to death to think that he could have done all of this. And I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there right now. But I don't see why he's pleading guilty. I wouldn't. I'd fight. I'd fight to the end. But then you ask yourself, would a normal person dispose of the bodies the way you did? And I would have called 911.
She suggested that the emotional environment surrounding her son during that period was intense and difficult to fully grasp from the outside. According to those who heard her speak, she reflected on how relationships can create pressure, urgency, and life-altering decisions. Still, she stopped carefully at the line between reflection and accusation. That distinction matters. Investigations previously concluded without charges against Nichol, and no official findings have changed. But Cindy's words have reignited discussion about emotional dynamics, about influence, vulnerability, and responsibility in high-stakes situations. Public reaction remains divided. Some believe Cindy is simply trying to process unimaginable grief in the only way she can.
Out of it, and I'm getting in it, and that's not fair for them. And that was kind of the policy that I had with him, was it was just like, yes, but not yet.
So did he ask to introduce you to his children?
Not at that time.
Okay.
I think both him and I were on the same page of eventually, if things went as they should in
I understand you guys'
relationship.
relationship is very new and young.
Yeah.
So, although it was short, just laying everything out helps us understand what actually was going on with him. And
Yep.
I might ask you a question and you're going, why the heck would he ask me that? Probably because I have information that I'm not willing to share with you, and I'll tell you that right now. I'm not going to tell you. Some questions I'm going to ask you, and you go, what the heck? I won't share some information with you. Just, it protects you, it protects our investigation. So if it seems weird, there's a reason I'm asking it,
That's
and
fine.
it's usually relative to what I know. So don't take offense to it. Again, it's just part of what we need to know.
Understood.
So just, you went to his house on 2 occasions.
Yes.
Was that recent?
No, that was like pretty early into it, and I did not like it and did not want to go back.
Do you recall where the house was?
Yeah, it's like right off the highway in Frederick.
Okay. And you know the streets?
I mean, I'm sure I could figure it out again if I like really had to. Like off the top of my head, no.
Do you know the street name?
No.
Okay.
I would have to like drive around in there to get there.
Okay. Did it look like anybody else lived at that house at that
Oh,
time?
definitely.
Okay.
I mean,
So is that what freaked you out?
I mean, he told me that he was living in the basement, and he said, we're separated, but we're not divorced. And
By asking questions that still linger in her heart, others argue that revisiting these themes risks pulling the case back into speculative territory. Yet through it all, Cindy's tone appears consistent, a mother searching for understanding, not headlines. Whether her perspective changes anything legally is unlikely, but emotionally, it has shifted the conversation once again. And sometimes, perspective alone is enough to make people look at a story differently. As soon as Cindy Watts' comments began circulating more widely, the reaction intensified. Supporters argue that she has every right to speak about her own experiences and perceptions surrounding the tragedy involving Chris Watts. They say a mother's voice should not be silenced simply because the case has reached legal finality. To them, her reflections about emotional dynamics and unanswered questions are part of a grieving process that never truly ends. But critics see it differently. Some believe that mentioning Nichol Kessinger, even without direct accusations, inevitably reopens public scrutiny towards someone who was never charged with a crime. They warn that suggestion, even when subtle, can fuel online speculation that spirals beyond control. The divide has become stark. Comment sections are filled with passionate defenses and equally passionate objections. True crime commentators are dissecting Cindy's tone, word choice, and timing. Was this a carefully planned statement, or an emotional response after years of restraint? Meanwhile, legal experts continue to emphasize that no official findings have changed. The case remains legally closed. No new charges, no reopened proceedings, only conversation. Yet conversation carries weight in the digital age. Cindy's remarks have reminded the public that beyond court documents and media coverage, families on every side continue to live with the aftermath. Grief does not follow a legal timeline. Questions do not disappear because a sentence has been handed down. Now the spotlight shifts to what happens next. Will Cindy clarify further? Will the conversation fade? Or will this spark deeper reflection about how narratives form in high-profile cases? One thing is certain, her voice has altered the atmosphere. What began as a quiet reflection from Cindy Watts has now become one of the most talked-about developments in the ongoing public conversation surrounding Chris Watts.
And we're going to get ready to sell the house. And that was the impression that I was under. And I was under the impression that they were taking everything pretty slow with this, with like getting ready to sell the house. I mean, those are big things. So that's what I was informed. And I mean, if you think about it, this whole thing happened in a 6-week stretch. Like, that's not really that much of a time frame. So in that sense, like, it's believable to me. Yes, I went to the house, and the first time I was there, I hung out in their like front living room. I just sat on the floor, and it was on the 4th of July. It was the morning of the 4th, and I was helping him to set up MyFitnessPal app and like track his food, his calories and stuff, because he does pretty good with the working out and stuff. And he asked me, he's like, "Can you help me just like get this dialed in?" It's like, "Yeah, I can do that." So that he invited me up to the house, and I was already kind of hesitant to do it because I was like, there are other people that live here, and I just felt like it was an invasion of space. And so I went up there, and we just stayed in that front room, and I helped him out with that, and got him all set up with that. And then, he asked me if I wanted lunch, and he grilled chicken and carrots. And then that's all he had. And I was like, okay. So we ate, and then I left. And then there was another day about, I can give you the date-ish. Let me look at a calendar. I think it was the weekend after my birthday.
But after the debates, the headlines, and the online arguments, what actually changed? Legally, nothing. No new filings, no reopened proceedings, no official shifts regarding Nichol Kessinger, who was never charged with a crime. Authorities have not altered their conclusions. Yet emotionally and publicly, something did shift. Cindy's decision to speak reminded people that even in cases the justice system considers closed, personal narratives continue to evolve. For her, the comments appear rooted in unresolved grief, an attempt to understand how everything unraveled so quickly. She did not present evidence. She did not make formal allegations. Instead, she offered perspective, and perspective can be powerful. Some believe her words reopened unnecessary speculation. Others feel she simply voiced thoughts many had quietly wondered about for years. The truth likely sits somewhere in between, complex, layered, and deeply human.
Just a thing on the courtesy for the phone for, what was that guy's name, Don?
This gentleman,
Oh.
Thornton PD. I just met him today. Do you want to do the phone
I forgot
today?
about that.
For TPD.
It's not for them. They're doing it for us.
Yes.
We don't have the equipment with us to do it, and I asked them to do it for us. They're not involved in this investigation. He would just be a computer person. He would not be looking at any of this stuff. That would fall to myself. So keep that in mind. He's not involved in this investigation. Thornton PD has nothing to do with this, other than letting us use their facility and helping us with some electronic download. He's not going to look at your phone right now He's going to put it on a disc and they're going to give it to me.
Gotcha. I don't know, what do you think? I really want to help you guys. I do. I feel like this whole thing is just going to be crazy regardless of whether I give you my phone or not. I mean, that's kind of how I look at it. Like, it's happening. It's going to happen.
Well, the texts
Media's just
reiterate what
gonna-
you've been saying all along, so it's not like...
Well, they do. That's the other thing, too. I mean, that's kind of a good backup. Yeah, I'll give
I
it
think
to him.
you hit the nail right on the head. There's reasons why we want everything. It validates things that we know. I'm not
In
gonna,
high-profile tragedies, stories rarely stay frozen in time. As years pass, memories shift, interpretations mature, questions resurface, and sometimes those closest to the center of the storm feel compelled to speak, not to rewrite history, but to process it. Whether Cindy will say more remains unknown. Whether the public conversation will calm remains uncertain. But one thing is undeniable: her voice has been heard. And in cases that captured global attention, even a single voice can reignite discussion across the world. As the public reaction begins to slow, the weight of everything that was said still lingers. The remarks from Cindy Watts did not introduce new legal evidence. They did not change the outcome of the case involving Chris Watts, and they did not alter the official status of Nichol Kessinger, who was never charged with a crime. But they did something else. They reminded the public that long after cameras stop rolling and courtrooms empty, families continue living with the aftermath. Grief doesn't close when a case does. Questions don't disappear simply because a verdict has been reached.
A maximum sentence would be appropriate, and anything less than the maximum sentence would depreciate the seriousness of this offense. So the court is going to sentence Mr. Watts as follows. With regard to count number 1, murder in the first degree as it relates to Shanann Watts, the court is going to sentence you, sir, to a life sentence in the Colorado Department of Corrections, followed with no possibility of parole. And that is going to run consecutively to all but counts 3 and 4. With regard to count 2, as it relates to murder in the first degree with Bella, the court is going to sentence you to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections with no possibility of parole. With regard to count number 3, the court is going to sentence you as it relates to Celeste to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections with no possibility of parole.
For Cindy, speaking out appears to have been less about pointing fingers and more about expressing unresolved emotion. Whether people agree with her or not, her words came from a place few can truly understand: the complicated space between love, loss, and public judgment. The internet will eventually move on to another headline, another case, another debate. But for those directly connected, the story is not content, it's life. And perhaps that is the lasting impact of her decision to speak. Not a shocking revelation, not a dramatic twist, but a reminder that behind every high-profile tragedy are real people still navigating the consequences. As this chapter closes, the case remains legally settled. The discussions may quiet, the opinions may remain divided. But one thing is certain: when silence is broken after years, it echoes. If you followed this full story from the beginning, thank you for being here. Like, share, and subscribe for more thoughtful, in-depth true crime storytelling and updates.